Welcome back to American Arms Channel, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Drake. As you can tell from the title of the video, today we're taking a look at a firearm that I've been coveting for a very long time. And even though I've got a gun that works fantastic and is a direct copy of it in the AXA S4, it's just not the genuine article. And without further ado, I give you the Benelli M1014.
The very best there is. When you absolutely, positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitutes.
Now guys, I just picked this up, and no, this will not be a first shots video technically, because I've already ran about 35 shells through the gun, and everybody who has a Benelli M4 or M1014 on YouTube pretty much will show you and talk about all of its features. So if you're coming to this channel and you found it, I'm really not going to cover all of that stuff here. But for those of you that don't know, the M1014 is the limited edition version of the M4 that is the facsimile of the exact gun that is issued to the United States military, particularly the Marines. It has the collapsible stock, but it has the fixed C stock or skeletonized quote-unquote stock extension tube, where yes, I can take the thing off, but I only get one position. So that kind of sucks, but it gives you the opportunity to. You've already got the components, you just need a tube. So when they become available, you can buy one, and which I'm particularly going to do. And of course, like all Benellis, except for the law enforcement variations, it has a abbreviated 5-round tube with a false extension. That's already under works to be corrected, of course, with a full-length tube. I've taken the impact weapon components scout light mount off of my S4 and put it on this one, wearing the Streamlight Pro Tac 2. Looks a lot like a Surefire, doesn't it? 650 lumen weapon light. Great light so far. It's stood up to a lot with the S4. We'll see how it does on this Benelli. I've got my Blue Force gear sling on it, padded sling, and then of course I have a red dot sight. This is the Meprolight Micro RDS. So I think that's going to stay. We've got some other components coming to trick it out, very much like the S4 with a larger extended charging handle. We are going to go with the Terran Tactical Bolt Release and enhanced safety button. But other than that, I'm just kind of gabbing. I'm super excited about this. And one more thing about the M1014 is that it does not have a removable choke system. Like its military counterparts, this has a heavy barrel, quote unquote, and it has a chrome-lined, fixed, modified barrel. So you really have to, you can't tune your choke tubes to your load. You're going to have to take your loads and pattern them and figure out what works with the gun. But without further ado, I know you all came here to see me shoot, so let's get that underway. We're going to run some low power stuff, some full power stuff, and just see how she does, and maybe put a couple initial patterns on the board at 15 or 30 yards and see what happens. All right, folks, so to start off, we're just going to throw a couple of 1.25 ounce, 1220 foot per second, number 5 lead through the Benelli M1014. Not looking to do anything with it, but just show the function. So we'll show these standard loads cycling, and then we're going to go to the light Winchester white box loads and see how it handles those, because some people say these things won't cycle the really light stuff that well. Let's find out. I 100% jerked at that trigger and flinched like a little boy. But she shoots just fine. My red dot kicked off though. It must have been 8.5 hours since I turned it on. So those went just fine. Let's grab some of these Winchester white box. These are 7.5s, but that doesn't mean anything. They're 1 ounce in 1/8 at 1145 foot per second. So sub 1200 foot per second. This is a relatively brand new gun. Let's see how it does. Looks like it did just fine to me. And one more for good measure. No problems. Not like I'm holding that tight. Next up, let's take a Rio target. This is 32 gram or ounce and an eighth that they're calling it at 1150. And then we're going to follow that up with a, oh, what happened here? Lifter's not going up. Oh, I tripped the bolt hold up and somehow. And then we're going to follow it up with 2 steel loads. The first one will be an ounce and an eighth Winchester high velocity Super X steel, and then the next will be the Remington equivalent in the nitro steel, same payload, somewhere around 1450 FPS if I remember correctly. So here goes the Rio, no problem. The Winchester, no problem. The Remington. Yeah, that Remington has a bit more punch. No problems. So here's some hand loads. These are an ounce and a quarter, number 6 lead at approximately 1400 foot per second is what my load notes say. I had a box of these yesterday when I bought the gun that I was running that I chewed up because they frankly were not a good load. They had gotten wet and there was something with the powder. So we chewed them up pretty quick, and this gun did pretty good. It only had one hiccup, even though they didn't feel good. It made it super dirty. So let's see if this box of hand loads will do well. Well, that was definitely a really nice cycling load. No unburnt powder, so it looks like I'm going to keep the rest of that box. But she's cycling just fine. All right, so we've got 5 here. I'm going to load them up. And the last round is going to be a Winchester Super X number 4 lead. And then we're going to go to 2 Federal number 5 ounce and a quarter 1220 foot per second lead as I fumble them into the gun. Then we're going to go to the Rio 1150 foot per second ounce and an eighth. But we're going to start with the Winchester Super X Super Target, 1145 foot per second, ounce and an eighth. Shot shell loads have a lot of information together on them, don't they? So let's see how it does on 5. Oh, I outran the hammer. That's not the gun, that's me. Outran the hammer. There we go. I figured I'd end up doing that, but I wanted to rattle them off. The heavier loads, it's not as bad because as it recoils and climbs and you're trying to pull it back to target, you kind of take out that quick trigger pull. The light loads, you can really keep it on target and fire fast enough that you'll actually override the action and you'll send the hammer following the bolt on rotating bolt shotguns. So it's not a worry because you're probably not going to be doing that in a situation that really counts. So there's that. Let's take a look at firing a couple shots with some different loads and see how those do. All right, so once again, we're going to do kind of a rainbow stack here in the M1014. We're going to start off with a low velocity 8 pellet buckshot, the Herter's 8 pellet 1145 foot per second. So let's get that guy in the chamber. Then we're going to finish with the Herter's 1 ounce 1600 foot per second slug. Second to last is going to be the Sterling Polyslug 32 gram. Third in the shot column is going to be the NSI 12 pellet double op buck, and then our second shot will be the Wolf Power Buck. So the only thing I'm wondering if we'll cycle through this gun reliably is the Herters. I did have one hiccup the other day and one failure to lock back, but it's a very light load, and this is a brand new gun, so we're not even clearing the 100 round mark yet. So we'll see if over time it likes to cycle it. The AXA S4 seems to really like them, but let's see. First one up, the Herter's low recoil. Kick that out real nice. There goes the Wolf Power Buck, very easy going. Here's the 12 pellet. Definitely more recoil, but still manageable. Here's the Polyslug. Okay, very easy, pretty smoky. And here is the Herters. Yep. That was a 1600 foot per second 1 ounce slug, all right. No problems, locked open. Felt good. This skeletonized collapsible stock deal here, A little bit loose, feels a little funky because you can feel the gun twisting, but it doesn't feel bad. It's just a different feeling when you're used to solid stocked shotguns. Yeah, I'm used to ARs that have collapsible stocks, but you don't have that much recoil in an AR. This definitely has enough to wiggle around, so yeah, those felt good. And when I get my enhanced controls on this gun, it's gonna change the game. Well, that and a 7-round tube, but we'll talk about that at a later time. I love it. Herter's 8 pellet, 10 yards. Herter's 8 pellet, 20 yards. Herter's 8 pellet, 30 yards. All right, so M1014 fixed modified choke, 10 yards with the Herter's 8 pellet, low recoil. Got a weird elongated, almost like there was a duckbill choke on that. I think that was a fluke, because we're seeing very even pattern right here. It's just open, not really any core to it. You've got 4 over here and then the 4 dispersed. And then we've got a very even but open pattern down here on this 8 pellet. I'd like to see this pellet right over here, but it's in line on the outside. So 30 yards looks like your max effective range with this gun and this particular load. It also failed to feed the next round after the 10-yard shot, so the gun still needs to be broken in before it's going to be running this. You've got to remember, with 8 pellets of double-aught, you're actually still under 1 full ounce of payload weight. You're something like 15/16ths, you're a little bit over 7/8 of an ounce. So I think it's something about 15/16ths of an ounce, maybe not quite. And with that lower velocity, yeah, definitely just the action just needs to slick up and break in, and it'll be very reliable with these. But so far, that's okay. That's okay. Not stellar, but okay. It's usable. It's usable, but I wouldn't be loading these rounds into the gun for defensive purposes because they're not yet reliable. Wolf, 10 yards. Wolf, 20 yards. Well, guys, we can definitely see the 1014 did not like the Wolf Power Buck. Here at 10 yards, we've got a halfway decent spread. It's usable inside the house. You're probably not going to throw it someplace that you don't want it to. It's definitely not a hostage situation buckshot load, because you're going to tag anybody outside of this core. So if you've got a small target, this is not the load for you. At 20 yards, we have kind of a core right here, and then we have 3 major flyers. And then at 30 yards, there's no core, it's blown. Essentially, if you laid the center, and I'm aiming right here, and this seems fairly well zeroed, basically you've got an enormous hole. These pellets are just bouncing away. It's probably because of the modified choke, the fixed modified choke in this gun. But it also can speak to the load quality. Sometimes loads that are a little bit hotter don't pattern that great. This is definitely a no-go, but this is why you pattern test. We're running out of light, so we're going to go with the NSI, and we're probably going to stop because I won't have enough to shoot slugs. NSI 12 pellet, 10 yards. $20. All right, boys and girls, we're gonna scratch that 20 yard and we're gonna say this is the 20 because that's the reality of it. Run out of the light is one reason why I shot the 30 yard. And 2, the second I thought about how big this 10 yard pattern was, I said, you know, the worst comes to worst, I just have to put a new piece of paper up on the board to shoot 30. But yeah, if we look at it here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. and we are missing 11 and 12. So there's 10. The nice thing is they're very even, but this is again a 20-yard shot. So we're looking at least a 24-inch pattern here and the core is still good. I think out to 30, you'd still have a couple pellets that are very usable, but you've got, right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 40 to 50% of our payload in the core at 20. So at 30, we're probably not doing so hot. So this particular cartridge with this shotgun is not that great. I don't think that this is a bad load as far as payload weight, as far as pellet count, as far as velocity goes. It's a powerful load. It seems to be well put together. I don't necessarily like the roll crimping because it uses a pretty thick plastic card, and that might be attributing to some of the bad pattern. But I think a lot of what we're seeing here with this is more so the gun than the load. Now the S4 didn't like it a ton either if putting it on paper, but this is just this gun. Somebody else could have the exact same M1014 gun and Benelli, and it patterns fantastic, but unfortunately this one doesn't like it. Yeah, inside the house that's still usable, but I don't feel comfortable with it, simply from the point of view of if there's other people in the house and you've got a lot of chance that some of these pellets might go errant. This is just a one-shot sample. That 8 pellet buck, even though it didn't pattern the greatest, still a better choice as far as pattern goes. Unfortunately, this gun isn't cycling them perfectly. I think in another 50 to 100 rounds of full power ammunition, it will be slicked up enough that it'll probably run those just reliably. But as of right now, definitely need to maybe go online and just search out some high quality flight control buckshot by Federal or some Hornady critical defense, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this first look at the Benelli M1014. Of course, we'll do some more videos with it, probably not as in-depth as we did with the AXA S4. This is a pretty well vetted gun, but I will be showing you my progress with it as well as how I set it up, and we're definitely going to take this guy hunting this year as long as I can shoot some slugs straight with it, so stand by for that. As always, guys, God bless, keep your powder dry. I'll see you in the next video.